Architect community. It's 4 p.m. Eastern, which means it's time for the Entree Architect Context and Clarity live conversation. No, it's not live. It's just context and clarity conversation. This book club day. Happy Friday. Welcome. When you get here, say hi. Let us know when you're here and let us know where here is for you. Where are you joining this conversation from? This
Here.
looks a little bit different from here. Yeah, you are here. You're at that little red dot on the
I'm
the
here.
map there.
Perfect. Christian's also
Christian is
here.
also here.
For a minute, I didn't even think I was here, but now I know I am.
Now you know you are. I'm glad that you have that confirmation. If you've never been here before, glad you're here. Welcome. This is we do this every weekday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern, and the last Friday of every month is our book club discussion. So today is August 26th, last Friday of August. We will be discussing the book that the Context and Clarity Book Club book. That sounds extremely redundant. That I hope you've been reading all month. It's How to Write One Song,
Yeah, I hope it
Loving the
didn't take
Things
you
We
all month.
Create, and how they love us back. No, I hope it didn't take you that long. It is it's a short read. So so we're going to get into it here in just a minute. So say hi when you get here. Great to have you here. Let us know that you're here. Let us know where here is, where you're joining from. And welcome to the book club discussion. Christian is first on my screen. He's joining us from Ithaca, New York. Welcome back, Christian. You were the first in, as I said, which means you are the winner of today's John Kinney Memorial crochet book cover.
Woo!
That seems appropriate for a book club discussion day.
And
Wendy
even
Brown.
achievable.
Oh yeah. So how many of your grandmothers had a Bible with a crocheted book cover on it?
Yeah, not mine.
Just throwing that out there. Wendy Brown, welcome back.
Actually, my grandmother actually crocheted a Bible.
Paper.
Crocheted a Bible?
It was like an illuminated manuscript, but it was crocheted.
Especially when it was backlit.
Yeah, after that, her eyes were ruined.
I bet they were. Scott Thrift, welcome back. He says pizza's on the way in San Francisco. Glad you're here. Send some of that pizza this way. I'm kind of hungry.
That
Emma, welcome
good.
back from New Jersey. And Chris Novelli, welcome from Massachusetts. Glad you're joining us today as well. Let's see. Yeah, as you get here, say hi. Let us know if you're on Facebook right now and you're commenting away. You're saying hi, and you're looking at the screen, going, "Hey, why does my comment not show up?" It's because you're in a private Facebook group, and there are these policies, these privacy policies. You have to give Facebook permission to let your name, your likeness, your comments out to Restream, where we are right now. So in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, thanks to Catherine, there is a URL, chat.restream.io/FB, as in Facebook. And type that into your browser window. A couple of clicks later, you'll give Facebook permission to let your comments join us here in the conversation. So again, thanks for joining us. We've got Jefferson says Facebook is delayed, but we've got some other folks. Let me click on this. Let me just check that. Nope. Facebook looks to be good at the moment. So, but thanks for joining us via LinkedIn, Jefferson. Love that. That actually helps push it out on the LinkedIn side. Thanks for joining us from Los Angeles. And Jessica, also from Los Angeles. She wants to know if it's happy hour. As long as you're happy, it's happy hour. And we're here for it. Glad you're joining us, Jessica. And everybody else. Let's see. I haven't seen a Twitter, a Twitch, or a YouTube yet. So maybe we'll have some folks joining us from those platforms before our hour is up. Twitch.
I was told that if I could make a lot of money playing games on Twitch, that people would pay to watch someone my age play games, which I found a little insulting. But on the other hand, maybe that's an idea.
Well, I think
they would pay to watch old people play games.
Yeah, because it's funny, I guess. Except for that, they don't really realize how into video games I used to be.
That's like when you have the like the young kids hear like Toto for the first time, and they're like, "Wow,
yeah, Look, oh, this is
You
amazing.
know?
Where have you been, though?
Have
Have you
you ever
not?
been to the mall? They play. That's
Yeah,
all they
right.
play
Or the
in
supermarket.
those
What the
places
heck?
is like songs from the 80s.
Right. Like you never heard the
Muzak.
Doobie Brothers
Yeah, exactly.
anywhere.
You know, exactly.
Yep. Yeah. Well, speaking of songs, not necessarily Toto, but the book for this month, as I said a minute ago, is How to Write One Song. It's actually what happened. No, stop that. Okay, sorry about that. It's the book that we read this month is written by the frontman of Wilco, the band Wilco, out of the Chicago area, named Jeff Tweedy. The title is How to Write One Song, Loving the Things We Create and How They Love Us Back. And it was recommended last month. We read Simon Sinek's Start With Why. Honestly, I
Oh.
forgot to pick out the new book. Rod made a recommendation, as did others, and his recommendation was How to Write One Song. So thanks for that, Rod.
You're welcome. Like I said, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, I thought we might have some fun just talking about creative process, not necessarily anybody thinking they have to write songs, but we're in a creative field, and I think pretty much everybody got into it because they were creative or thought they were creative or wanted to be creative, and that's how we got into it. So I thought it'd be fun to talk about it a little bit and see how people do things and
Well, you know what I've been waiting for all day, Rod?
You've been waiting for the songs I wrote.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I was going to wait till a little later to do.
Oh, we don't want to jump on that.
I mean, like I said, they're on there, but
okay. I thought I'd bring it up. Like, you know what? When you want to put it in the private chat, I can put it up on the screen.
I'll put it,
right here, so you can put it there. You can put it there. See there, and then I can put it up on the screen for everybody else to look up.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, sorry, Jeff. I interrupted you. I was just too excited about Rod's.
I'm excited about the song I wrote about Alabama today, though.
Can you read that one?
I was hoping that James Polk would have written the music for it, but I know he was busy. I sent it to him, and then I was like, write some music for this, but he was busy. He's making a living. So.
Well, hopefully he will join us. Go ahead.
Otherwise, I just want to remind people that they're welcome to come join us on the screen, and I can send up to, I think, 8 more people the link. So if you want to be one of those special 8 people.
Yeah, if you'd like to join us, just message Catherine and she will send you the link. Typically, what we've been doing on Fridays, we've been opening up the Zoom room for everybody. We're simulcasting this right now out to all the places that we always do for Context and Clarity Live. You may have noticed that every once in a while we have trolls drop in to the into the room, and so I'm a little hesitant to just publish the link out to the entire world. So that's the only reason we're guarding the link right now. If you want to join us on screen, just message Catherine on
or
Facebook.
You can just put it in the comments, and I will. Well, I'm more likely to see you if you put it in the chat, and then I'll send you a link on Facebook.
Okay, so Michelle says, "Sure, I'll come." Well, welcome, Michelle, and Barry. Looks like Barry too. So if you can
come on and you get a troll, come on, teach us, some crypto, do some crypto, bro.
Yeah, tell us how we could make money from home. I am dying to know. Nobody ever seems to, take them up on that.
Make a lot of money from home.
Make all my money.
Yeah, me too. All my money.
Yeah, but back to what you said earlier, Rod. This is another one of those books that I would not have been on my radar. Right? It's Amazon wouldn't have suggested to me. Audible wouldn't have suggested it to me. But I'm glad you recommended it, because as I started to listen to it, what you were just saying about the creative process, I think is 100% true. I was listening through, and most of you know that when I use Audible, I think it's called the Clips feature. So it's basically bookmarks.
Yeah.
The first
you ever go back
half,
and listen to those?
Oh yeah, yeah.
There you go.
Sometimes,
Okay.
yeah. I actually use those. I'm working on something right now where I'm going through. It's a different book, but I'm going through clip by clip and using that information. But um, the I'm going to say the first half. I don't know if it's literally the first half, but before Jeff Tweedy starts actually going step by step through the writing process, when he's just talking more broadly about songs and creative process, I was hitting that clip button a lot, and I don't know how many total, but a lot of that really resonated with me because of exactly what you just said. It's yes, he's talking about writing a song, but you could substitute the words, and he could be talking about designing something, creating architecture. It's creative process, so that's
Like writing a novel or something.
sure could be anything.
Yeah, and
But
there
it's a
was a
good
lot of
suggestion.
his process too. I mean, he's very. We were talking about time blocking the other day, and he was he's totally has this process of dedicated work time.
Yeah,
It's his job, but it's not just like he's hit by some muse. I think a lot of people who aren't in creative fields just think it's like some muse inspirational kind of thing that comes along and hits you. As it did for me this morning when I was walking my dog and I wrote my song about Alabama.
Okay, I need to hear that one, Rod. Can you give us some of that?
I can give you some of it, sure.
All right.
It's sad though.
That's okay. I'm in a pretty good mood. I can
I was
take it.
already crying. I was already crying. Is there a mute thing on here? There's no mute on this.
Do you want me to mute you?
No, I just wanted to know.
Yeah.
I just
There is, yeah.
If there was a possibility to mute myself, but
There is. You can down there, the thing that looks like a microphone.
no,
you
I was crying when they were talking about the about life and like how it's an inspiration, and how like artists have to kind of be angst ridden, and then he was like, well, everybody has issues. It's like they're just not writing about them. So that was a nice thing, because people tend to like say, oh, artists have all this angst, right? Instead of really, it's like, no, they're writing about their angst, right? It's like there's a lot of other people that have all those things. They're just not writing songs and poetry and everything else about it. So
yeah, but they should, though. It make them feel better, probably.
Yeah, they don't have the release.
Yeah, probably. But
Yeah.
I just kind of like that. Instead of it being like, oh, you guys have issues because you're creative, it was like, no, you're writing about these things that everybody else has, but you're just able, you have the creativity in able to, in order to express it.
I think that's I wonder about that a lot, especially where we are in 2022 and everything that's gone on in the last 2.5 years or 5 years or something like that, 6 years. I wonder how much of what we see and how much of what we're realizing is simply more people saying more things out loud. We've been experiencing things, been thinking things, and of course there's social media and all of those things. Social media's been around obviously for a while, but I think that's what you're saying about more people writing about. I think that there's a lot of truth to that across the board. Over in the we lost him. Over in the chat, a couple of people. Barry says there are some great bits in the book. A lot of my takeaways were around being creative to a deadline or for a reason rather than waiting for the inspiration to hit you, which is similar to what Rod said a minute ago. I agree with that. Chris says, I like the book and can see how many of the creative exercise he talks about can be used as inspiration for similar architectural exercises. As I was walking and listening to this book one morning, and maybe it was because it was getting closer to the college semester starting and thinking about class, I thought, if you're teaching a design studio, I could see somebody totally using this book as inspiration for their architecture, their design studio. 100%.
Yeah, my the guy who was the head of my graduate program always would say that we shouldn't waste time while we were sleeping, and that we could be figuring out designs in there. All you have to do is think about your design before you go to sleep. When you wake up, you'll have the answer.
It's magic.
Like, good. Don't want to waste that time sleeping or anything.
You can control your dreams.
You can't.
Think
You can't
about them
control
when
your
you
dreams.
go to sleep.
Yeah.
So
All right,
it's-
Rod. I need to know the Alabama song before.
Hang
we
on a
continue.
second.
Yeah.
We're having
And
a
then
small,
it was
we're
the
having
thing
a
about
small
sleeping.
animal pet drama here.
Oh no.
Well, the thing
Is
about
that in
him
the song?
sleeping and then having been in a band or whatever, and he was saying like, "Oh, you really only need to get like, you really only need to be awake for like 2 hours a day or something like that in order to be able to get up." It's like,
That's
Okay.
like the polar opposite of my day. So-
True.
oh, okay. So, Rod, here's I
Hey, here's
know if you knew this. What Wendy shared here? She says So this is Wendy Brown in Western Massachusetts. Wendy says we in the Berkshires have the Solid Sound Festival started by Wilco. Did you know that,
Yeah.
Rod? Have
Well,
you been to it?
I've heard of that. I heard of that Solid Sound. Yeah, but
I don't even know who Wilco is. I guess I could have looked it up while I was reading the book.
Well, if you lived in Chicago rather than Boston, you'd know who they were because
they're actually going to be in San Diego
Chicago
on the
band.
17th of September.
Whoa.
Are you going? You should go
Maybe.
see 'em.
No,
You should.
I don't think. I went to Robert Plant
Yeah. So
Same-
you
same
did get,
thing.
and Alison Krauss. That was nice at the show.
but
That
you were
was the last-
misbehaving there, from what I heard.
The last time I saw Wilco was at the Marat in Indianapolis.
No kidding.
Yeah. And I have a shirt somewhere. I was going to
Well-
wear my Wilco shirt, but it's in the wash or something. I don't know.
Apparently,
And I saw him a couple
Robert
times in
Plant
Chicago.
fans. Yeah, apparently, older Robert Plant fans do not like people standing up at the concerts, which I realized when this person came up from behind me and said. And the thing is that I wasn't in front of their view of the concert. I was in front of their view of the Diamond Vision. So it's like, and I really don't take up that much room. I think he probably could. And there were 20 empty seats. There were 20 empty seats next to them. So they could have just moved over a couple seats. But no. They had to come up
No.
and tell me, could you please sit down? I can't see around you.
We went to see Bob Dylan, and it was like going to like a geriatric home. I mean, it was like all these people with walkers and canes and wheelchairs, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Well, we were there with a wheelchair, which that was a whole other thing. But yeah, it was interesting.
I've been
It
doing
was-
a lot of
it was
thinking
pretty
lately
funny,
about,
though,
Dancing
you know.
allowed, apparently.
like, what does it mean to be old? Now, when we're in nursing homes, they'll be playing Prince or whatever. It'll be playing completely different music than old people music. But that will be old people music. That is old people music now. I'm watching all these guys. Anyway, but I'm getting off
music.
track.
Actually, Wilco has a song called "When You Wake Up Feeling Old." So
Perfect. I got from this book that there's no subject he won't consider when it
It's
comes to a song.
that's true.
Speaking of which, can we just hear the song about Alabama? I'm starting to think you don't have one.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. We had a cat that did some unadvised activity.
Okay.
Okay, ready? I don't want to read this whole thing. See, it's like,
All right. Well, how about just like two verses
Okay.
and maybe the chorus?
all right, okay. It's called "One Reason to Go to Alabama." It's kind of like John Prine-ish. Okay. It's like, thinking back, she was a young girl, hard candy at the general store. At 17, she married a raw-boned boy from Limestone, farmed cotton just out of Ardmore. Go down to the chapel and fall on your knees, boy. Believe what you have to believe. There's one reason to go to Alabama. You can always leave.
That's the punchline.
There's several verses.
Wow. I like that. I like the raw bone thing in there, Rod. That was good.
Did you hear the part about 600 acres and a Cadillac on the top?
I don't think Jeff didn't hear about that. We heard about it.
Jay and James were talking about that.
Yeah.
Well, let me just read
bring that up. Yeah.
Here's the very end. Okay. So basically, this is a song about a woman who married a farmer and now he's dead.
Spoiler.
The last part of it goes, 50 years on, Emphysema's his mistress. He finally left her alone to pack up memories in boxes from Walmart, some as heavy as stone. 600 acres, a developer bought it for tracks to build America's future for the Amazon plant workers, assisted living, and a new Cadillac.
Wow.
The end.
Nice. So, Rod, did you use any of the strategies?
It's not supposed to be funny, Jeff. It's supposed to be sad.
It's sad,
No,
Jeff.
it's great. No, I think
No, it's very
great.
good, Rod. He's happy. He's so happy that you have a good song. That's what is happening.
I am.
Well, and did you
want to hear it on the radio?
600 acres. Well, the 600 acres with it's about Jay's, right? Jay's the end of how the
It's about that's he said
He just
that.
borrowed it.
It's
Yeah, he
about,
said it.
Selling your farm for subdivisions, which
Then you get a car for
all
it.
my relative farmers did. So,
Yep.
anyway.
Got some of those.
Well, I
What
like
did
that,
you
Rod.
What'd you say, Chris? You were
I said, did you use the strategies from the book to?
actually, that all came to me when I was walking my dog.
Nice.
Which is probably one of the strategies.
Yeah, that's one of the strategies.
Yeah.
It'll just come to you. You know what? I was thinking about his strategies when I was watching someone sing "What a Fool Believes" today on TikTok, and I thought they must have just cut those up and mixed them around because that makes no sense. Those lyrics, but so it made me look at that from a different angle. You know how they write that song.
Yeah, I like when he talked about picking out just 5 things that you see in your room, and then making picking out like 5 verbs to go along with it, and just kind of like writing about it. I thought that could be really applicable to like architectural exercises, right? Just maybe picking out five different things that you see, or 5 different styles, and maybe 5 different things that how it could be used, and just sitting down and sketching it, right? And just not really for a project. It's just to get your brain activated. So
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the difference, of course, is if you're doing architecture, I guess you're dealing with program and things like that may inhibit or not inhibit, but they sort of frame that possibility of creativity a little differently. But songwriters have the same limitations, right? They've got time, they've got it's thematic. What they're writing might be conceptual, or they limit themselves intentionally to give themselves a structure and a system to work within. So, I mean, I think it's applicable. I don't think one song is really like a building, though. A building is more, I guess, like a concept album or something. So,
yeah, right.
That is a phone ringing. Hang on a second.
Well, I think I had spoke this morning about how there was a first year project that they did that was a few years behind me, about how they had a musical instrument, and then they had to draw the instrument and then like cut it up in different things. And I think that they were even supposed to do some of the pieces with a jigsaw and actually make wood models out of it. But it was a way for them to like break apart from just these rectangular spaces and like open up those rectangular spaces with those things. So it was taking the instrument and drawing it and cutting it just to get used to other building forms.
Did everyone have that assignment? Because I had that same assignment too.
No, I didn't have that.
I
We had
didn't
to-
have it. I didn't have it. I'm surprised Catherine didn't have it because I thought it was like from somebody that came over from SciArc that brought it, but
Might have been. I
apparently.
mean, we had to draw our neighbor's head, so we had to draw that with French curves and then make sections out of the head, and then we use the head for shapes rather than an instrument.
Hmm.
I think that's
It was hard because we had to actually come up with the way to measure it, and then have all the points. But anyway, no, we didn't do that. We did the brick on a bridge thing. Did you guys do that?
What's-
The bridge project?
we did the egg dropping the egg from the second floor.
Interesting. Well,
Yeah.
okay. Now I want to know what Rod's famous songs on WBCN were.
They aren't
Oh.
famous. I just copied and
I
pasted
know. I
it to
see
you.
that. It's exciting.
Those are songs that I listened to them yesterday. When I was a teenager, I went to Boston to live with some guys that I was in a band with ever since I was in junior high. And I ended up not performing with them, but I wrote songs with them and we wrote songs together. And we wrote a lot of songs, and we were basically in the process of kind of evolving and changing what we were doing. We were kind of going from sort of a teenage, I guess, pop rock band to some more involved thematic things. And we got approached by a guy who was a local musician who started a record label. And he said, "Oh, I like your guys' band. I want to produce, some songs." So he paid for it, which was expensive at the time. Recording studios are expensive. And he picked the songs and he produced them. And they were songs that were older in our repertoire, and they were kind of away from where we were going. But it was like, hey, go for it. And they sound pretty good with Bose headphones on, I have to say, but they're kind of, imagine yourself being 19 years old and being, I almost listen to it and go, oh, it's kind of like an incel. These guys, it's like incel music or something,
Incel
frustrated,
music.
sexually frustrated boy music kind of thing.
Okay,
So those
so
are what those songs are about.
this is 1980, Ron?
It's like
Or-
1980, yeah. So that's 40 years ago, right? 41 years ago. But if you listen to them with headphones on, they sound pretty good. The one song kind of sounds like the theme song from Friends, but it's, like 10 years before that. So,
Oh, no, that is
very
not what I was
plausible.
expecting. Well,
so
I was just thinking about that Believe It or Not, I'm Walking on Air song from, I think, 1980.
believe it or not, George isn't at home.
I was trying to think about what I was listening to in 1980 since you asked about that this morning.
And then there's another song also that is on YouTube by a band called the Gizmos. And my friend who was in this high school band with me, who didn't go to Boston, he and I wrote this song down in Bloomington, Indiana. It's a pretty funny song, but it is so non-woke, it's like it's got a lot of like pretty stupid lyrics in it, but it's about it, but it's a fun song about a guy who was a chamber musician who sold out to become a punk rocker. So that, that's what it was about. It's pretty funny song. So, and that song actually was on a record label that was actually John Cougar's first record label.
Before he was John Cougar Mellencamp.
Before, when he was Johnny Cougar. Yeah.
Johnny Cougar, yeah.
So that's the connection there. But
look who's here.
And I can link that one. I can link that one too, Catherine, if you want to hear that one.
Yeah. Well, I was just listening to. I can't get James on here.
I'll work
Maybe
on
I
that.
have to turn that off.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I don't know if everybody else at the audience can hear you.
I
Well,
can
love
hear
that shirt, Rod. Can anybody hear
It is
me?
Yeah.
it is a
Can
tie-dye
anybody
shirt
hear
from
me?
Puerto Rico.
Oh, nice.
Let's
Just
Well, I'm
noticed.
officially off today. So
All right.
Excellent.
I
Well,
tried
did
to,
you?
I tried to link in from my phone, but my iPhone, but it said that the browser was no good, or it
Yeah, you
wouldn't
have to do it
accept
with a
the
different
browser.
browser. Yeah, it's a little persnickety when it comes to that.
Or I would have been here 15 minutes earlier, but I would have been driving like a maniac while I was doing it. So maybe it's all for the good.
It might be better this way. Welcome.
Yeah, I got here alive.
That's a bonus.
Yeah.
Definite
So
bonus.
what a great topic, writing songs, songwriting. What did I
Yeah.
miss?
Oh, you missed Rod's song about Alabama that you're supposed to be putting to music. He has
Oh,
the
really?
lyrics. Yeah, it's
James, I
pretty.
sent you some screenshots of some lyrics about being in Alabama.
I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I
Yeah,
certainly
it's
saw it, but I didn't look at it.
yeah, it's wrote it after we had our conversation, and when I took my
Wow.
dog out, and I came back and I jotted it down.
Nice.
Nice.
That's how the creative process works.
Exactly.
I like Barry's comment over in the comments. He says, I think my favorite bit in the book was him talking about writing a song in a hotel lobby, waiting to be picked up. Being able to focus and follow the process with lots going on is a real lesson. I think that was, and I also thought, I think it was in that same chapter where he talked about giving yourself maybe naturally or just making them up time limitations. Hey, you can accomplish something in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I think that was in that same chapter as what Barry's talking about.
I need to apply that to my
but,
architecture,
Yeah.
well,
according to my client.
how many of yeah, I'm sure according to your client, but I think that's the thing, right? You'll fill the amount of time that's available.
Yep. And
Yeah.
we're all eternal beings, so why not work on it forever?
Yeah, well, because you have a meeting coming up in 10 minutes, so you need to I call that shaking it out of my sleeve is what I like to do in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that
Sometimes my best work comes when I don't have enough time, and because I tend to procrastinate and just think about it and ruminate over it, and I mean songs or drawings or any decision really. And if I have a time limit and it's a hard stop, then I, I just do it. I just do it, and then most times it turns out better.
Yep.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is about that, though, it's like you have that deadline and you think, oh, you did everything at the 11th hour. But all those other hours that with things that you didn't do or you
Thinking about
discarded or you thought about or you napped through or whatever, that all counts too. It's just that the real distillation happens. It's kind of like if you're water and you're on the stove, you're heating up,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
it just takes that last burst of energy, whatever it takes, the 40 times the energy or whatever to turn it from 211 to 212 kind of thing.
Well, I think that's always interesting because, when you're going to interview for a project and people say, well, what would you do? And it's like, I don't even know you. It's like, it's almost like I can't come up with something in 2 seconds of what I would do for you when I don't, I don't know you. It's like when I get to know you and then so actually one of my clients said recently, they said, oh, so did you think about that when you first came into our house, or did it take you a while to kind of fermentation process or whatever? in order to come up. And I said, yeah, I said, sometimes it takes a while, it certainly doesn't come up in like 5 minutes of like, oh yeah, I do this, it's like, I have to meet you. I have to measure the space. I kind of have to look at it, see what your programmatic things are. And then, it's that creative process of like moving everything. And then you come up with the design, but
big process is the word.
Yeah.
It takes getting from here, the journey from here to there is like, okay, it's like we don't have a transporter. We can just transport up to the starship. We have to actually go through the process. And when I'm at the end of a deadline and I'm just screaming towards the end and I'm just laying it down, all of that came from process. I couldn't do that. Okay, well, let's start a project. Go. I couldn't do it there. I have to think about it and sleep on it and not think about it and procrastinate and do this and that, and then I can do it.
I have this book that's called The Creative Process, and it has like a bunch of different people in it. And then they were asked, and some, it's like it's Pablo Picasso, and they were asked, like what is your creative process? And they all came up, but and there's writers and musicians and poets and artists and sculptors and and I don't know whether there's an architect in there or not. I don't believe there is, but when you look at all of their process, it's the same process that we use. And then also when we were taking this, we took this class in school. It's called The Designer as a Teacher, and Frank Gehry's sister actually taught it because she's an educator. She has like an elementary school education degree. So she would teach us Designer as a Teacher class. And so she would make us like try to go through all of these tools that we used in order to design, and a lot of it was like, okay, taking things apart, putting them back together, rearranging things. And so we had to use all of these words trying to explain the process. And it's really difficult when you're trying to, when you're trying to like figure out how you did something, to then go back to like these step-by-step process, because it's not, and then we had to do a creativity model as far as like what we thought. And this creativity model shows up in like a ton of other people's things. It's that it looks like the same thing, where it's like a ball with all these like spikes coming out of it, as far as like things are going in and then it's moving around and then it's going back out with your ideas. So.
I have that book, I have that book somewhere. And actually that was a very important book. Like when I initially started working in design, it was like, even though I had done stuff before that I thought was creative, I didn't automatically transfer over. I sort of had to reiterate to myself that it is a process and it just doesn't explode out of you. It's not, for some people, I suppose it does, but it's more of a slow churn kind of thing, and finding other people's experiences sort of reiterates that.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets into that in the book too a lot.
Yeah.
About talking about having that daily routine, about putting in the work and doing those design or writing exercises in his case, but it could be design exercises in our case, and in making sure that you're constantly practicing your craft and trying new things and seeing where following things where you never thought it would go, and sort of thing.
That's the book.
There it is.
That's the book. It's around here somewhere.
We can't hear you, Michelle.
I said, this is the book right here. See, it's like, I got it out like a couple of weeks ago, because I was going through, I'm trying to rearrange stuff, but it's edited by Brewster. Is it Ghislaine? Is it Ghislaine? Is that supposed? Ghiselin. And so it's Albert Einstein, Vincent van Gogh,
Vincent Price.
Is Vincent Price? I don't know.
Actually, Vincent Price's
He's
son
smart.
was I don't know if he's still alive. He's a writer in Albuquerque when I was there. He wrote about the city, and wrote a lot of books about
Vincent Price?
He passed
Vincent
away.
Price's
He
son.
passed away recently. Yeah.
V.B. Price.
Yeah, he passed away recently.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
He was
Barry says that Jeff Tweedy's daily routine is on the more interesting side. I think I struggle to keep up with his timeline.
Yeah.
I think-
Well, he's got it. He's got a lot of people actually follow a routine like that. It's hard to imagine.
well, like he said though, right? He's only got to be awake for 3 hours a day, really, as a performer. So he's got a schedule that's a little bit different than 9
And
to
he had
5
a place.
kind of
He had
schedule.
a place to go, which I think, I forget what do you call it, the loft? Is that what it was?
Yeah, they have a place called the Loft where they do all their recordings and everything.
So what kind of implications are there post COVID? Where we've been blending home and work and some obviously before COVID, but do you have a dedicated place to create or design?
Yeah, I guess. My life isn't so. I find that I have to do other creative things to take care of my urge to be creative, rather than just the work I do. Whether that's like creating knitting patterns, which I don't do anymore, or writing songs,
But
painting.
that's interesting. So you're an architect. You design whatever it is that you design, homes or firehouses or museums or whatever.
Hmm.
As an architect, and obviously that's the job. That's also the craft, probably the passion. How many architects also have to have, and I mean like need to have another different creative outlet that and at what point where does the need come from, right? Well, we're getting paid to do this other, and clients dictate things and codes dictate things, and do I need a creative outlet that's just pure and is whatever comes out?
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Yeah.
Architecture has so many constraints, and just me, I'm fresh off of, as in drawings coming in today, of a big set of construction documents, and that's not creativity. That's another side of the brain, and it's for me, it's pretty draining, and I'm yearning for a creative burst of an outlet, and I've been fitting in playing music by myself, like at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning before I go into work, and
Whoa.
just so that I can get a little creative and not just implode with all the left brain stuff that construction documents entails. And especially the last week, I'm just finding myself wanting to get super creative. And so I'm thinking about going to Nashville next weekend to see a couple of bands at the Ryman Auditorium. I mean, that's a crazy idea, but why not?
Why is it a crazy idea, James? Because you don't.
Well, it's 6.5 hours. 6.5 hours away. It's not that, well, it's not that crazy.
No, it's not crazy.
Take off and go see a couple of bands at the Ryman.
That's like driving to LA and back in one day for me.
Yeah. only it's one way.
Where are you going? Who are you going to see? Do you know? Or are you just
Watch House is the band. They used to be Mandolin Orange, but they decided that name was too catchy, so they changed it to Watch House, which took me about a year to remember. And but they're just that kind of band, and they're kind of a Americana, a little bit bluegrass, rootsy bluegrass, really great band. And then also Caleb Clowder and Reed Weems, who are old time, but also a little bit of crossover bluegrass. And I've taken some lessons from Caleb on the mandolin. And so it'd be fun to see him in person. So yeah, a couple of groups that are pretty important to me.
Sounds great. I mean, I
Very
think we
cool.
need
Make
to do
sure-
that kind of thing.
Anybody want to go?
There's a guy over here in that teaches photography at Louisiana Tech, and he does tintype photography, that old school tintype stuff, and he did photographs for Dave Rollins and Gillian Welch, their records, the tintype
nice.
covers, and also John Paul Jones, who was in Led Zeppelin, lives in Nashville. He's married to a country bluegrass singer. I don't know, can't think of who it is.
And he plays mandolin. He
Exactly.
plays mandolin on some of their albums, but
And he's pretty old now, and my friend that was doing the tintype photographs was telling us that you have to be still when you take these photographs because it takes a long time for it to develop. And he couldn't hold still long enough because he was like shaking. He was too old. He was like shaking. So
like
they had
the
to
photographer.
retake him. So
hey, I got a story about Gillian and Dave. My friend Tom Kimmel had them on they agreed to be on one of his albums, on one of the cuts of his albums. So they set up a recording session, and it was like 3:00 in the afternoon. And 3:00 came, and 3:15, 3:30, 4:00. About 5:00, they called like out of breath and said, "Hey, we're so sorry, we overslept. we overslept, and we're just so sorry. Can we reschedule?" So they rescheduled for 8 p.m. on another day.
It's safer.
Well, also a lot of recording kind of stuff happens in those wee hours because you know what happens? The recording rates go down too.
So they do.
The price of the recording studio goes down at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. or whatever.
I've heard them talk though. They do that in interviews. They stay up all night and play music and not drinking and playing music, but playing serious music. And they say they try to get to bed before the birds start singing, else it's law. They can't get to sleep.
Yep, those birds
Well,
are very loud.
About doing stuff later when you are kind of sleep deprived, you can let yourself go a little bit more where, I know some people are like, oh, then you just like do drugs or something. I mean, I've never found that to be something that I want to do, but I think sometimes when you are sleep deprived in like the wee hours of the morning, you're able to actually kind of, punch through.
I think
break through like those walls that were kind of holding you back before.
I'm less inhibited when I'm a little bit sleep deprived. Not a lot sleep deprived, but a little bit sleep deprived. I tend to just, like I said, be less inhibited about going ahead and doing the thing, the creative thing. I don't think about it as much. I just do it. If I'm
where you're kind of like constrained, like, oh my God, what am I? It's like, oh, I have to do this in order to do this, and that's like, well, why not do this? It's like, no, we'll just make it different than than kind of what I thought, and see if the client likes it. See if they're not so constrained by traditional design or something.
That's interesting.
The thing about sleep deprivation in like architecture studio, like when you're in school, I think back to that now, and it was less because you were up there being creative, like you were playing music and you were jamming or whatever. It was more because it takes so much time to do those things that you never had enough time in normal hours. So you're always, up all night because you're trying to finish something.
Yeah.
Because you can't judge on how long it takes to do it.
Yeah.
You don't, and it's just like, It's like Wilco says, the ashtray says you were up all night.
Right. Right.
Oh, I like that. What a great line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
As opposed to like when we used to go, when I was in this music thing, and we actually had a music, it was like a practice room that we rented, right? Kept all the instruments there, and we'd go down there and mess around, and we'd stay there all night. But we were, it was it was a different kind of all-nighter than the architecture studio all-nighter. It was just a different vibe. And so
Yeah.
No, you are
Audrey's-
like if you're up late, if there is a studio. I mean, I know that at Cal Poly Pomona we didn't have a studio, but in Denmark we did have a studio where people, and if we're up at night, right? You're like still, you're spending a lot of time with people and you're bouncing ideas off of things,
right, yeah.
So that's kind of, and I mean, of course, one time I stayed up right for 3 days and then I cut like this part of my thumb.
Yeah. Michelle, yeah, that's what happens when you stay up that
So
long.
yeah, so it's like, I know you really shouldn't be doing that, and then I ended up in the ER, and then of course they're like, oh yeah, an architecture student, but it's like
But you caught up on your sleep while you were waiting in the waiting room.
Oh no, they actually kicked out my roommate who had brought me there because he was just being a total. He was an art major and an architecture major, and he was just like way out there, and he just started to like say stuff, and they basically said like you need to leave and get out of here because he was just being like kind of gross with all this stuff, right? Because there's blood and everything else, and then he wanted to sit there and watch it get stitched up, and because he was just kind of like that. But yeah,
He wanted to make an art project out of it.
yeah, exactly. And they just said like you need to leave, like you can't be in here,
That's
Audrey said
process
that she
for
read somewhere sleep deprivation has a similar effect on the brain as intoxication. And
Yeah, but not in a
going
good
back
way.
to our, are either in a good way, necessarily. Wendy said, I sure need another outlet. I like working with my hands. This was the idea of a different creative outlet. Quilting, sheetrocking, replacing sills, and gardening.
I need
Interesting.
Wendy at my
Hey,
house.
I was going to say the
Hey,
same
Wendy
thing.
at my house.
Me too,
Yeah, come
Wendy.
on.
And I live closer than all the rest of them. So come over to my house and replace some sills with me.
Yeah, but in the middle of winter, come down here. It's warm.
Barry wants to know, James, what beer are you on? It looks delicious. What are you drinking, James?
It's a new beer. It's called it's got a great name. Holy Roller by a New Orleans brewery, a new Orleans brewery that I can't think of, but the name the name of the beer is Holy Roller, and it's an IPA. It's a really great beer. 6%
Urban
alcohol.
South Brewery. Is it Urban South Brewery?
Urban South Brewery. Exactly. It's very good.
This episode of Context and Clarity brought to you by Urban South Brewery.
South.
Try their new Holy Roller IPA.
I saw Holy
hazy-
Roller and I couldn't pass it up.
There you go. It's a hazy hazy
Oh,
IPA brewed
hazy.
with mosaic and
Yeah,
citron
IPA.
top.
Hey, everybody be cool. Mark's here.
There is
Uh-oh.
there is an Abita, which is a Louisiana beer, has a purple haze.
Right. I'm not crazy about Abita beers though. I don't know what it is, but they seem a little too like they pour syrup in them or something.
Mm.
I don't know what it is, but I never
Cane syrup.
cane syrup or something. But I'm not a big fan of Abita.
I like beer. It's definitely not like that here. It's definitely not the I like beer crowd here. Yeah, but
I don't.
another thing that I thought was interesting in the book when he said a lot. I knew he was you're gonna get us in trouble, Mark. When
This episode of Context and Clarity brought to you by Holy Roller Beer.
About being able to take time out for other things in your life besides your career, and then that you probably won't be able to get as much done, but you'll have inspiration from the things that you do with your family.
Yeah, there's definitely, as you read or listen to the book, you hear some of the regrets come out. The things that he feels like he missed out on, and you'll have to listen to it you can get a sense of some of his trials and tribulations, so to speak, over the years. But fair point, right? If you're running a business, is that the same as being a songwriter? I think in a lot of ways. What have you missed out on in the time that you've been working late or meeting with clients or whatever you've been doing? Barry wants to know if you've had the Dear Loser beer from Sub Pop, probably his favorite American label, and it was a good beer too.
I have not.
Look that one up.
Even heard
Have
of
not.
I
It
have
sounds like something worth trying.
Dear Loser Beer.
So getting out and doing things unrelated to me is critical, because if I'm doing the same thing all the time, even if it's creative, I get kind of ground down, and especially if it's a lot of left brain stuff. But even if it's the same kind of creative stuff, I sort of lose my juju or whatever it is. And if I go here, go there, experience this, and it has nothing to do with architecture or music, or maybe it is music, or maybe it is architecture, but it's totally different, then that sort of feeds my creative spirit. And then I come back a lot more fresh. I tend to recirculate ideas when I don't get out much. When I'm just by myself, the ideas just kind of churn like that little spiral on the computer.
Yeah.
And if I go and come back, I feel revitalized creatively. If I go some road trip or
I mean, I think definitely a road trip definitely inspires you. I mean, I don't know, it just inspires, just like getting out of your normal everyday routine, I think.
Yeah. Well, supposedly that keeps us from, if we're seeing new things, our brain is kind of occupied with seeing the new things and not ruminating over our issues, whatever they are.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Mark wants to know if the book's worth listening to while he's mowing the lawn this weekend. You have to have a big lawn.
I think the first, like Jeff says, the first half of it, for the discussion about the creative process, and definitely worth it. The second half, I don't know where it breaks time wise in the 3 hours, is much more where it's like specific kind of, I don't know what was like, they're like almost like, step one, you can do it this way, and step two, you can try doing this way, and kind of is
prescriptive,
is something that's worth checking out. But it's I think it's harder to listen to it and do something else.
It's
that's what I think too. I mean, it was difficult for me to like kind of listen, and I've told you before, like I can't really listen to audiobooks or podcasts like while I'm trying to do something, because I just like start really just thinking about everything. And I think I actually had to stop it and rewind and and I am one of those readers that's probably more, I don't think I do well with audiobooks, but I don't know. Maybe in the car it would be easier for me to do it or something. I'll have to try it in the car, because I am listening to music, so maybe I could listen to that, the same thing. Maybe it would help.
Well,
but I do really like to read. What?
You in the car? You may end up in Denver.
I know. No, that's true.
So Barry
Well, I did
Barry
end up in
says,
Colorado a couple weeks ago, which I didn't expect I was going to be in Colorado, but we went to Colorado instead of New Mexico. We just went up there that way because there was too much rain, so we couldn't get the airstream back into Chaco Canyon, so we had to go to Mesa Verde. But
Yeah, Chaco Canyon is not is a bumpy ride. And if
I
it's
will get. This
really
is the
rainy,
second
it's-
time that I haven't been able to go there because of the rain, so I will get there for the third time sometime. I think I'm just gonna bring a 4-wheel vehicle and not take any kind of Airstream or anything. I'm just gonna
Barry says that the book is 100% worth a listen. So what I'm picturing is Barry listening to the book, drinking a Dear Loser beer, and mowing the grass all at the same time.
It can happen.
So it's yeah.
I would also recommend listening to Wilco's song "Hate It Here," which is about doing chores around the house.
Nice.
I try to stay busy. How's that go? I try to stay busy. I do something. I do the dishes. I mow the lawn. It's about his wife left him or something. So he's like trying to keep the house neat till she comes back.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, good country song. Wife leaves you. Song.
exactly.
So
I would also recommend watching the documentary I Am Trying to Break Your Heart about Wilco. When they finished their album Yankee Hotel Foxtrot and sent it off to and this is in the book, sent it off to the record label, the label hated it and wouldn't accept it from them. So it's about that sort of tribulation they have, and then sort of friction within the band itself, because there was a guy named Jay Bennett who was really a great arranger and musician in the early Wilco times, who unfortunately died after he left. Well, he was actually kicked out of the band, which you'll see in the movie. But there's a lot of the friction there at the time, and but it's a great movie. I think it's by the same guy that did Helvetica and all those documentaries, so. Or at least he's involved in it. He might have produced it, but it's a good movie.
Hey, so we were talking this morning on Clubhouse a little bit, and I brought up the possibility of, is there maybe a forum that we can put our original song compositions in and sort of share those around our group? Because I would put a couple of video or audio clips in there, and I'd love to hear compositions by all you guys.
Well, we have two of Rod's here. I don't know where we can keep them. Maybe a
Facebook or maybe Entree Architect Facebook page, and then just set the files in there.
Yeah, the Entree Architect SoundCloud. What about Dream Party, Rod? Are you in Dream Party?
Dream Party. That sounds like a band.
It does, but it's not. Well, James, you could
Sounds
post
like
them
the
up in there.
Dream Police by Cheap Trick.
Dream Party. I haven't been on there in a while, so I need to.
I know. I don't know what happened to people's dreams.
I haven't done anything in a while.
Well, I'm just saying you could post it there, and Rod, I think you might be a member. Maybe you're not a member, but you could put your stuff there.
I'm not, but
You could join. It's not hard to get in.
James just put some music to those lyrics I sent you there.
Okay, I'll look at it this weekend. I've got a.
It's kind of a sad song.
It sure is.
Don't make it too happy.
Well, you know what I love is the dichotomy in bluegrass. You have these murder ballads that are ding 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 ding.
Yeah, they're all happy. Yeah.
Happy music about the murder ballad.
Yeah, pretty much all ballads seem to be murder ballads.
Yeah, I did my PhD on bluegrass murder ballads.
If they're any good. They're murder ballads.
There's some, yeah, I love ballads. That's a totally different subject. We can
There's a
talk
lot
about
of good
someday.
songs about murder, unfortunately.
Nice singing in Ireland. The ballad singing. When I just recently went to Ireland for a little bit, and there were some really nice ballad singing, and the affects of the voice. Some of the soloists. Incredible affects to the voice, and then the ballad was along with that. And I like ballads too.
Yeah.
They're stories.
They
They're
are stories, yeah. And they're very dramatic, a lot of them.
And sometimes traumatic.
Both, yes. Yes. I think they have to be traumatic to be a ballad,
Dramatic.
actually.
If they're any good.
Yeah.
They're just manic. There is an Entre Architect SoundCloud, by the way. I don't know what it takes
Oh,
to
is there?
upload something.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Cool. Well, I'm
There's
going
nothing
to
there.
check out. I downloaded Rod's. I put it. Here's one of Rod's. Okay, so everybody copy that down.
Actually, one of those has 2 songs on it. And one of them has one
Now,
song.
is it a video too? Am I going to be able to see?
No,
the
they are not
19-year-old
videos.
Rod?
They're just the post of the cover art. Neither of which I did or like. So
Well, I can't wait to see it. Okay, Jeff, the big reveal. I'm assuming you know what the book is going to be next month.
We'll do the big reveal this weekend.
Okay, I understand.
oh, is it secret? Is it a secret?
It's a secret to Jeff even right now. I think is what the
Oh, we
secret
don't know yet.
Yeah. Jefferson
Well,
said
we can
that
get, like I
tonight
said,
you
we can get back to books. We can get back to themes about accounting
spreadsheets.
software now.
Everybody write a song about your accounting software. Tonight you can go see Jeff
Fresh
Tweedy perform with
books.
Phil Lesh and friends.
Phil Lesh. I thought he died.
Dead or Alive. That's a fun game to play. Celebrity Dead or Alive.
Okay, so I guess we never resolved where we post the original songs. So are you guys saying that I need to create a space for that? I guess.
Look, I'm saying that you could post it in Dream Party, so at least we could see or hear your songs.
Dream Party.
At least so that you put it out in the world.
I'm not saying this because I want everybody to hear my songs. I want to hear other people's songs. And I'm just saying that, but I would be willing to contribute my songs.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
You're assuming that everyone that other people have songs.
Force you guys to listen to my songs, but I would like to.
I like your songs. I guess that's why I was suggesting it, or your tunes anyway. I don't know if I've heard your songs.
Did you Chris said that we should do the creative process.
Is it hard, Michelle? It looks hard, that book.
No, it's not hard. I just would have to wear readers. I would read from it, but I can't read the small type. But
see, that's what I mean. It looks like one of those books.
No. But you know what the good thing is that you can just pick. You can pick who you want to, like if you want to read about Pablo Picasso, then you can read about him, right? Because it's chapters.
I think it sounds very interesting.
Yeah. So you can just read the people that you want to read. I haven't read the whole thing because some of them I start to read it. I'm like, no, I'm not. Which is like with me with every book, actually. So, we're all skip ahead and then I'm like, oh, gosh, and I read the end and I'm like, okay, I'm done with it.
Well, my big thing is whether or not it's an audiobook. So I'm looking that up right now.
Yeah, that's the thing too. It's like
check on that. So
although the creative process book is like Michelle said, it's like broken down. It's like, it's like I don't know if I can't remember if it's an interview or it's just excerpts of, Henry Miller writing about his creative process, or if he's being interviewed about his creative process. I don't remember.
Yeah, and
but
I don't know whether
so it's just like a couple of pages of this person and a couple pages of that person, and so
So there's on Amazon there are 2 listed. There's the Creative Process, a symposium by Brewster Gislin,
Yes,
which is the one that you held up, And then
Yeah.
there's one called The Creative Process: Reflections on the Invention in Arts and Sciences by the same author, but
Same author as
published 30
Michelle's
years
book.
later.
Which one is that? Creative process in the individual? No. Well, you know what? I'm just going to let you decide what it is, Jeff, and then you'll tell us this weekend.
Well, the Creative Process: Reflections on Invention in the Arts and Sciences has selections from D.H. Lawrence, William Wordsworth, Albert Einstein. I think
Yeah,
it's the
this is the
same.
same people. Yeah.
I've got I got mine. Found mine.
Is it the same book, but it's just an
Mine
audio
is
version?
mine is by Ghislaine Maxwell.
It's a
I'm
different
kidding.
kind of creativity.
Mine is
I thought she didn't kiss and tell.
Mine is creative process. It says explained in their own words, 38 brilliant men and women, including Albert Einstein, Vincent van Gogh,
I think
Friedrich Nietzsche, etc., etc.
They
So I
don't
think
really
this is the
mention
one
women.
Michelle has.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
looks
the
like the
same
same one.
cover.
Mhm.
So the later one says this unique anthology brings together material from 38 well-known writers, artists, and scientists who attempt to describe the process by which original ideas come to them. I think it must be a republishing.
Large
Yeah.
print version.
What's the name of the book?
There you go.
Creative process,
Process.
Symposium. Mine is a symposium.
That's
Yeah,
the one that
this
was
one too. Yeah.
published in 52.
Yeah, mine is old. It's all yellowed and
So is mine.
I can tell. I bet I know what it smells like.
the 22nd printing.
Wow.
I think I have the same one.
1952. Yeah.
By the Regents of the University of California.
Oh,
So
the
I wonder if
Regents.
the creative process has
Hmm.
changed in 70 years.
Yeah, now you just look it up on the internet, right? You just do idea
That's right.
generator
How to
on
be
the internet.
creative. It's like
All right.
I'm
how to
going to
be
Google that
creative.
right now, see what it says.
Let me look into this.
Well,
But
Well,
you know, it's a very interesting process that I don't think gets studied enough, really. You know, I mean, when I think about it, is there really a sort of breaking down and study of the creative process like other things are studied? Probably somewhere, but I still think there's a lot of mystery associated with it and metaphysics that are, and a lot of that is true though too.
There is a lot of mystery with the creative process, and
Yeah, where did it come
I think
from?
taking it into a completely analytical, not that you can't break it down, and I break it down a lot, but to completely break it down and be analytical about it, I get to a point where if I analyze it too much, I neuter the inspiration.
Exactly.
And see, James, that was
Take
what
it
was
out of
so
like a
difficult.
flow
Yeah,
state.
yeah.
And
Like
And
in a
that
flow
was so
state
difficult.
Right.
Yeah, when we were in her class, we were so frustrated with her. Like she kept on asking that about stuff, and then we were always like laughing, going like, "Oh my gosh, what would you say to your brother?" Right? Because she was Frank Gary's sister, and we were like, "Are you going to make him go through this process too?" But I mean, it was good, and I think she was selling all of the ideas to Apple because she was working with Apple at the time. So we always felt like we were just like this like scientific experiment, which we probably were. But
You were a
tried to get
psychology experiment. Yeah. It's like,
well, even for the tech thing, right? Because she was working with Apple on stuff, so it's probably they were just trying to figure out stuff like that.
All right. Well, we will look for a book written by Frank Gary's sister. And
Doreen Nelson.
Hey, I've got a story about Frank
Doreen
Gary.
Nelson.
When I was at the teaching at Frank Lloyd Wright School of Architecture, the students would have this thing that they would love to do. They would get a piece of paper and they would crumple it up and they would throw it on the table and say, "Hey, look, there's Frank Gary's new building."
No,
I think
no,
that's the way he
we're-
does it. Isn't that his creative process too? I thought it
Exactly.
Yeah,
was.
he's done
Yeah,
that.
But
that
you
one
know, but
documentary.
did you watch the master class that he did on
Mhm.
No, I want to watch it.
master
Was it good?
class?
Was it good?
You know, it was okay. You know, I mean, it was you know,
He's
a guy who
still
does a
learning.
lot of things talking about what he does. So, but he didn't like tell you how to design things or what his,
Hmm.
you know,
Good.
There's two things that I like. There's two
thing.
things that I like about Frank Gehry. One is that he just started doing the parking garages in his 50s, you know, the Santa Monica part. And so really it was like in his 50s he kind of like took off. And that the other, you know, and I mean just being able to, you know, do those things. And he's done these residential things and there's studios for rent in downtown LA in this complex, and I swear I would love to get one. They're super expensive. They're like $2,500, which actually isn't very expensive considering that they're like in a high rise apartment. But I wouldn't want to go over 3 stories because I don't want to live that high. But there's also like this just amazing all these amenities that they have there. Which when you start to like look at all the stuff, I'm like, well, for $2,500 for a studio, that's not too bad for there.
I don't know. I looked at those and it was very clean, but it didn't look very formally like in any kind of. There wasn't anything that interesting about it except for the floor to ceiling windows, and it was clean.
Yeah,
and it had nice cabinets. But I mean, it wasn't a piece of paper all rolled up.
It's
No,
interesting to tell that you said Frank Gehry got started, really took off in his 50s. And I can kind of identify with that because I feel like in my 30s, 40s, and really early 50s, I was just trying to figure it out, and it was a little haphazard, and I was learning a lot, but I didn't feel like I even started to understand design until I was in my 50s.
Yeah. Well, you know, he did that cardboard furniture. And he made a lot of money from that. I think that's what allowed him to sort of open up and be less reliant on making payroll. And then I also think, and I've never heard anybody talk about this, but he was very tuned into the LA art scene.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there are artists like Ken Noland and people like that. And I know he did a studio for Ken Noland, but Ken Noland did these paintings that left a lot of the material of the painting exposed. Like he wouldn't, you know, if this is the canvas, he wouldn't paint the whole canvas. So you'd see it'd be like unfinished. And then Gehry started doing these unfinished kind of buildings like his house and things like that. He'd leave these materials exposed, things like that. And I really gravitated towards that kind of stuff when I was in school. I didn't, you know, as he evolved, I've got less, you know, became much less interested in those things. But that 1980s kind of Frank Gehry, I really always really liked.
Yeah, the lofts were around the corner from us. The lofts were, you know, he did those 3 lofts, and Dennis Hopper was living in one of them, and you know, and then we had the Binoculars building, so that was kind of, you know, just being in Venice Beach in the 90s. I mean, Catherine was there. Catherine knows her.
That's right. Catherine's a sly art.
I was
That
there. Yeah,
explains a
I
lot
think
of it.
Catherine and I didn't live that far away from each other, but we just didn't know. We probably had met at some point, but we just didn't know.
We didn't know each other. Yeah. Well,
Probably passed each other. You probably roller skated by each other on the Venice boardwalk.
Rollerbladed. I never roller skated.
You did rollerblade? I had rollerblades for a little while. I did have rollerblades.
Or anything? No, I wasn't.
I lived right on the boardwalk for a little bit.
In my rollerblades. No,
I can imagine.
No. Maybe at Abbott's Habit, I might have met you.
Oh, I was there every day for a while. Yeah. I probably
Yeah. So that was probably. I would have been in there with a baby though.
I didn't have a baby then.
Yeah,
no babies.
I had like 1 and 2 kids by that point. People thought I was crazy. People in the architecture community were like, "Oh my god! Like, you guys have 2 kids? Like, what are you doing?"
Question.
Never mind.
Yeah, never mind. Yeah, you won't have to explain it.
This is
All right,
this is
look,
this is probably where I pull the plug on
this
this.
is. I think this is where I'm gonna go. I have to go, so I'll just see you all later.
Yeah, you could do
You want me
your
to-
own research on that.
Hey,
Thanks for this conversation.
Actually, I came across a pretty interesting book, but I don't think it's probably on Audible because it's it might be a little
You
more
made
academic.
Catherine jump off the call.
Yeah, she left right when I started talking.
Yeah.
There's a book called Icebergs. Oh,
Dead
hang on a
Ahead.
second. Let me find my.
And
Not
King
about
of
the
World.
Titanic. It's called
Oh.
where'd it go? Iceberg Zombies and the Ultra Thin. It's by a guy named Matthew Souls, and he's an architecture professor in Vancouver. And the book is about basically how financial capitalism has ruined architecture. So it was a very interesting interview with him.
Yeah, I was just talking. I was over at at somebody's office yesterday talking to him, and he's an urban designer, and he's writing this book. So he had all this thing. I posted some of the video, and then the other video was like too long to post on Facebook. But he's writing this book, and it does kind of go through that whole thing and about how now we're at this point where, you know, the things that are holding us back are basically financial things. Like, we could solve a lot of things, but it's like the financial means to
it's a financialization.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
everything is for the I guess the storage and accumulation of the finance industry and its benefactors and its shareholders and things like that, as opposed to creating shelter and aesthetics and things like that. Architecture become a vessel for wealth accumulation, which it always in a way always has been, but
So
now it's
speaking of writing, Eudora Welty is a Mississippi writer.
I've been to her house.
Had an interesting. I have too. Maybe I saw you there, but has an interesting take.
Were you rollerblading?
I was. Yeah, I lived in the neighborhood there for a while.
Yeah.
So she talks about writing. The writer's job, she said one time, is to explode the imagination, and to just put something into the imagination that just flowers. And is that our job as designers? I mean, take the commodification out of it and the financial stuff out of it. The creativity that we're bringing to it, is our job, or one of our jobs, to put something out there that causes people to think about new things, to think about things they would never think about otherwise. And I think that's what she was talking about. Think about it in a new way. To me, that's creativity.
It is. Yeah, exactly. And that was what we kind of came up with at the end of the class, but we were just so angry most of the time.
Anger-driven creativity. I listen when I need a break from all of the context and clarity research. I listen to a true crime podcast called Morbid, and I think there's probably some anger-driven creativity being reported on in that podcast. So
now, Jeff, I just watched the documentary Woodstock '99, and I thought I saw you there in the mosh pit, moshing to porn. Speaking of angst and anger,
when I got my first job out of college, the senior designer in our firm, no one knew this for a long time, but he had been at the original, the real Woodstock. And the way that people found out about that was that right in '99, he disappeared. It's like, what What happened? Where did he go? Or was it? Yeah, was it 99? Is that right? Whatever it was, he went back for that version of it.
Oh, the
I
reunion.
guess. Yeah, the reunion.
Yeah, it was quite a
And,
different concert.
Yeah, yeah. That was. But that's when people found out that he had been at the original. Like, where'd Andy go? Well, he's in New York. Well, that kind of thing.
So interestingly enough, I know a guy who was there. The guy here in Hattiesburg was the percussionist for King Conga, who was a fresh young band. They got the opportunity to play at Woodstock '99. They were just exploding at the time. And he after that concert, even though the concert was just, the festival was just a total disaster. After they performed there, a big record company called him up and flew him to New York. And they were a Hattiesburg-based band, but just a rocking band. And this guy's a percussionist, incredible percussionist, and flew him to New York and said, "Okay, we're going to make you guys stars. This is all the things we're going to do." And Tony said, when he came back, he thought about that and said, I really feel like I need to teach. So on the cusp of getting a big record deal, he quit the band, and he was the band. And so it all fell apart. So you never heard of King Conga after that. And I'll be designing, and he came back to here, and he's at a great school, and he's doing a percussion ensemble. He's a teacher, and they've won like state championships for 25 years in a row. And he also on the side, a creative thing on the side, roasts coffee. And I'm about to design his new coffee shop, which is a percussion-based coffee shop. So that was a situation where he didn't see the creativity in being rich and famous, and it didn't speak to his soul. And what he really wanted to do was teach. And so he had, this is incredible. He had the wherewithal to say, as a 20-something-year-old kid, to say, no, that's not what I want. I want to teach. And so that was from the Woodstock '99.
That's amazing.
They got that exposure.
That is amazing. Well,
that is a crazy documentary, though. You
got to speak to your soul.
Well, maybe I'll watch that.
That's where the art is, in the soul. It comes from the soul. You can't intellectualize the art. It's that spark of inspiration, and then you can work. You can work with the prefrontal cortex to modify that and mold it. But that something about that spark is kind of instantaneous, and then you gotta do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, well, on that note, I have to do some drafting.
Yeah. I'm gonna work with the prefrontal cortex. So thanks, everybody. I will let you know what next month's book is. We still got a few more days left in August, but I'll let you know this weekend what the book is. It is a long month. So thanks. This is a great conversation. Thank you. And thanks for the suggestion, Rod. It was a good one.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad folks out there had fun reading it. And, we all kind of think about a little bit about just stuff, where ideas come from, and freeing ourselves up a little bit.
And Rod and I are going to get together and write some songs.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I sent you the lyrics.
Okay,
virtual. I wanted to know if Catherine's thing was the almost brushed my hair was based on almost cut my hair, because she said that
could be Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Yeah, so we have to ask her about that later.
Yeah, gotta ask her.
Thanks.
All right, everybody, have a great weekend.
I'm gonna wash that man right out of my hair from South Pacific. All right, have a good weekend, everybody.
Have a good one, everybody. Thank you. See you Monday.